This is a production of WKNO Memphis. Production funding for Sports Files is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
My guest today on Sports Files is the head basketball coach of the Memphis Tigers, Josh Pastner. Last week on Sports Files, I was joined by a panel of media members who all agreed the Tigers coming up short in the Conference USA tournament would have not only been shocking, but extremely disappointing. But they would not disappoint. Memphis completed a perfect run in their final season in Conference USA, finishing with a 19-0 record. They won the Conference USA Tournament Championship last Saturday with a double overtime victory against Southern Miss, their third straight championship. In addition, it gave the Tigers the automatic bid into the NCAA tournament and was their 30th win of the season. In fact, only Gonzaga has won more this season. Today, I talk with Josh Pastner about his Tigers, about the season, and about the pressure to win in the NCAA tournament. But as a programming note, this, of course, is an interview that happened earlier this week before anyone knew who and when they would play. Still the same, it's Josh Pastner, as open and honest and confident as ever. The head Tiger, next on Sports Files.